This is the Barbados Today morning news update for Friday, October 13th, 2017. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ryan Jones. The International Monetary Fund is no boogeyman, and it could help, in fact, deliver Barbados from the economic woes. That's the view of a leading Caribbean economist who tells Barbados Today the country should not be afraid of the move. Despite the prevailing economic woes, the Frundell-Stewart administration has stayed clear of the Washington-based financial institution. But as we hear in this report from our Colville Munzi, it's not a bad option.
Director of Economics at the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Justin Ram, told Barbados Today on the sidelines of the Caribbean Tourism Organization's State of the Tourism Industry conference at the Grenada Radisson Hotel that Grenada has bounced back well since entering into an arrangement with the fund. He also sought to assure that the IMF was a much reformed organization to the one that was synonymous in the past with unbearable fiscal medicine, while suggesting that it was an option that should be considered by Barbados for concessional resources. Ram further cautioned that Barbados needs to have a proper plan for getting the fiscal books back into sustainable path. However, the CDB economist noted that as a sovereign nation, Barbados was well within its right to stick with its homegrown strategy, even though the route of approaching the IMF would make for easier fiscal adjustments. This is Colville Munzi reporting for Barbados Today from Grenada.
A new study shows that 70% of inmates at Her Majesty's Prison Dodds are on remand awaiting their day in court, with only a third of prisoners having already been convicted. This compares to 25% of prisoners on remand back in the 1990s, when a similar study was done of the now decommissioned Glenderry Prison. The Criminal Justice Research Planning Unit Senior Research Officer Kim Ramsey, presenting the preliminary findings of the ongoing prison study on day 2 of a national consultation on crime and violence, says it sampled more than half the population at Dodds. That's 438 males and 16 females.
For those of you who do not know, the prison has more remanded persons than convicted. It was not always like that. I remember the days when only a quarter of the prison population were remands. Now it is significantly more. I do not have the exact percentage of how many are remands, but I can tell you that it is significantly more. So in our sample, 141 persons were convicted and 287 were remanded. And this represents close to 7 in 10 respondents in the survey who are remand. 68% of the sample, while only 1 in 3 were convicted, which represents 32% of the prison population. There are more convicted in the entire prison. There are more persons on remand than convicted in the entire prison population. I was trying to get the statistics from the prison, but I was not successful.
In other news, Barbadians are given their stamp of approval to a new bill laid in the Senate to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. Our news team took to the streets, and this is the people's say.
As a woman, sexual harassment is always distressing because I was a woman. I thought from a woman's point of view. When you try to earn a living, and then you have to put up, you can't act as you would normally because you want to hold your job. And that's how you make a living. So I think the bill is very timely. In fact, it's a long time coming.
I am in favor of the bill being passed regarding sexual harassment in the workplace. However, you must be cognizant of the fact that you got to be sure what people determine as sexual harassment. And once it is being the persons have been investigated and everything has been sorted out in the way that is more amicable for both parties, then a judgment can be made. But we have to be very careful as we look at how sexual harassment is done in the workplaces, seeing that some people might view sexual harassment as, just someone just looking at them, but then, it is a very ticklish subject, but once it's being investigated properly, I think that it should work well.
Men do get harassed in the workplace, even though you tell somebody so they might laugh at you. In this society, somebody might laugh at you, yeah?
Yes, I believe that men are sexually harassing I believe that there should be a law put in place to both help men and women who are being sexually harassed in workplaces, because sometimes that's not what they actually want. They actually just want to work, and that's it.
Potholes are vexing problems for motorists and pedestrians alike, especially when the rain falls. And Drainage Minister Dr. Dennis Lowe is suggesting that the problem isn't with his department, but with how the roads have been constructed.
There needs to be a more careful examination of how we are constructing roadways to ensure that the quality of the roads are more resistant, that these roads are more resistant to rainfall regardless of the vigor with which the rainfall comes. That's important. Now, of course, with the construction of roads, there's a very tight collaboration between public works and drainage, particularly as it relates to putting in drainage systems with the construction of roads. But that is not solving the problem. And we should not have, every time the rain falls, we should not have to go and patch potholes. There is a flaw somewhere that needs to be addressed.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, touching one community at a time.
In Trinidad and Tobago, the health minister is accusing local drug suppliers of ripping off the country and overcharging the state by millions of dollars for basic pharmaceutical drugs and other supplies. Terence Dayal Singh says the sick and suffering in the Twin Island Republic were the ultimate victims. He said his ministry will be overhauling the procurement process to end the practice.
As it turns out, the state has also been grossly overpaying for surgical tools. And while local suppliers have been making a mint, it's been having a serious impact on persons in need of surgery.
This plate is $18 US. 1/8. Do you know how much the RHAs pay a local supplier for this plate? $5,800. This is why you can't perform enough orthopedic surgeries in our public health system. We are being ripped off.
The ministry has now begun procuring certain drugs through the Power Strategic Fund, but the minister says there are still holes in the wider procurement process which need to be plugged.
This is an absurdity, and I'm telling the people of Trinidad and Tobago now, as Minister of Health, looking after your interests, this is going to be brought under central tender purchase.
And in the United States, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, making a rare appearance before reporters, has rejected reports that he is soon leaving the White House. In a light-hearted moment with reporters, Kelly described the job as the hardest and most important job he's ever had, but not the best.
I am not so frustrated in this job that I'm thinking of leaving. I would tell you this is the hardest job I've ever had. This is, in my view, the most important job I ever had. I would offer, though, it is not the best job I ever had. Best job I ever had, as I've said many times, is when I was an enlisted Marine Sergeant Infantryman. That was the best job I ever had. So unless things change, I'm not quitting, I'm not getting fired, and I don't think I'll fire anyone tomorrow.
And that's news. There's more on our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. Or you can also tune in to Mix 96.9 FM for more news. I'm Ryan Jones. Good morning.